Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Yo Antaha Pravishya Mama Vacha Imam Prashuptam Sanjeevayati Akila Shakti Daraswadamna Anyam Shtahasta Charana Shravanatvagādīn Prana Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam Lasatu Shrimadananda Tirtendurno Hridambare Yadvachas Chandrika Swanta Santapam Vinikrintati Padavakya Pramana Jnan Pranamya Shirasa Gurun Vyakarishye Yatabotam Vishnu Tattva Vinirnayam. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for folks who have joined for the 14th session on Isha Upanishad. So this is our 4th month of continuous contemplation on Ishavasya Upanishad. As you know, this is also called Mantropanishad, Yagniya Upanishad, Kanva Upanishad, Samhita Upanishad, and so on. So it's got various names. The Rishi is Svayambu Manu, Rishi, Yagnavalkya, Kanva Rishi, and all the acharyas who have given us the bhashyas and explanation of these profound mantras of the Isha Upanishad. The Devata, of course, is Yagnanamaka Paramatma. And the chandas for this Upanishad, there are 3 chandas: Anishtub, Trishtub, and Jagati. Okay. So once we have thought about all this basic facts, let's directly dig into the verses. So we'll be very pleased. We should pat our backs because we are currently doing the 4th khanda of the Isha Upanishad. And as we have discussed this before, Isha Upanishad also, although it's got only 18 mantras, it's divided into 4 parts, and each khanda has a specific focus. So the nature of the knower of Brahman, first khanda. But it also gives us a hint to what happens to the haters of Brahman. The second khanda talks about the upasanas of Brahman. The third khanda tells us about the consequences of the wrong upasana of Brahman. Over the last 3 to 4 weeks, what we have been doing is focusing on what is Vidya, what is Avidya, what is Paravidya, what is Aparavidya, what is Sambhuti, what is Asambhuti, and all those kind of concepts. Because what is the main purpose of this? We want to firm up the right knowledge about Brahman. Okay. So the consequences of wrong upasana then become very important, and that we have dealt with in all details that we can over the last month or so. Okay. So this week and hopefully the following week, what we will do is the last khanda of the Upanishad. So before we do that, let's think about what we have done in the last class. Andan tamaha pravishanti ye avidyayam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yavu vidyayangrataha. Anyadeva ahur vidyaya anyadahur vidyaya iti sushrumadhiranam yenastad vichachakshire. Vidyam cha avidyam cha yastadveda ubayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva Vidyaya amrutam ashnute. Andan tamaha pravishanti ye asambhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yavu sambhutyangrataha. Anyadeva ahuhur sambhavad anyad ahur asambhavad iti sushrumadhiranam yenastad vichachakshire Sambhutim cha vinasham cha yastadveda ubayang saha vinashena mrityum tirtva sambhutyam amrutam ashnute. So those were those beautiful verses that we saw recently. And what did this verse basically tell us? It gave us, in fact, the whole of the Ishavasya Upanishad talks about these fundamental concepts of Sanatana Dharma. What are they? They are the concepts about karma. What is jnana? What is bhakti? What is vairagya? How are they all linked up with each other? What is shravana and manana and dhyana of paratattva? So those are all the ideas that we have been discussing in Ishavasya Upanishad. And this particular section also gives us a hint about what is the spirit in which Svayambu or Manu is actually approaching the Yajnanamaka Paramatma. Okay. Now, as we have discussed previously, whenever we think about the Upanishad, whenever we think about the characters of the Upanishads, what we should be doing is we should try to identify ourselves in those characters and then try and make our own journey very similar to how Nachiketa did in Katha Upanishad. Okay, similarly, we also put ourselves in Swayambhu Manu's shoes and think about how he is approaching this problem. Okay, so I'm going to break here for a minute and get us to think about the concepts of karma, jnana, bhakti, and vairagya, shravana, manana, and dhyana. Anybody wants to share their thoughts about what is fundamental, what is the first step in our progress towards liberation or moksha or sadhana? What is the first step? That is karma, and that leads to all others, isn't it? So who wants to share us their thoughts over a minute or so about karma, jnana, bhakti, vairagya, shravana, manana, and dhyana? So who wants to go there and discuss this, please? Okay, so
I'll just start off with the karma part. I was collecting my thoughts. 3 points I'd like to say is that it has to be nishkama karma, and it has to be according to the varna. It has to be right for the varna. And third, it has to be with Bhagavad Arpana Buddhi. So whatever work we do, it has to have these 3 components.
yeah,
so
sure.
It's for the karma part.
Yeah, go for it, Nita, if you want to do others or... Not worry. So to get the right concepts of...
Yeah, bhakti would be the definition of what Jayatirtha, his definition that you've taught us, that it has to, that the love for God has to be with understanding of his gunas, that he is got infinite attributes, and also, and it has to be beyond ourselves, beyond our possessions, and beyond, so it has to be above all this, and it has to be there all the time, nirantara prema pravaha. So that's the bhakti part.
So thank you, Nitaji. So the jnana component, of course, jnana also becomes jnanottara karma, right? So we need to have that right knowledge and the approach in which we do the karma yoga, as you beautifully mentioned, what those 3 components of karma should be. So when you do this jnana and bhakti, and eventually, you are supposed to get vairagya in this is dispassionate approach to life. And the key concepts of how you do here is, of course, you need to do shravana, manana, and dhyana of all the shastras that you have done. Okay, so that's the practical approach to it. So unless we put these ideas in our practice, so it's all well and good knowing about the theory, but if you don't put this in practice, then we're not going to go anywhere. But to put things in practice, to do that karma yoga, jnana is essential. So they are both intertwined with each other. And that is what I think Svayambhu Manu is illustrating in all the 14 verses that we have seen in Ishavasya Upanishad so far. And now, once you have this jnana, you have this jnana, bhakti, and vairagya. Because Svayambhu Manu, of course, he's a 10th in the Vedic pantheon, and he's an aproksha jnani himself. And what is he doing? He is doing his karma yoga, right? What is his karma yoga? His karma yoga is he has to look after this manvantara. Okay. And when the asuras are trying to, try to tackle him and kill him, he is going towards God for protection. Yeah. And he's doing all these prayers in a dispassionate way. Bhakti is coming out of this. Vairagya, he's doing all these jobs of his that has been entrusted on with Paramatma, with Vairagya as a key component. And then, of course, you have Shravana, Manana, Dhyana, that even though you're an Aparoksha Jnani, you're doing it always. Sheelaji Manjunadi?
Yes, Madhu. I thought Jnanottara karma itself is bhakti, isn't it?
Yeah, so Jnanottara karma, yes, I mean, in the sense that you're right, but again, that bhakti is the cream of all that. When you do a Jnanottara karma as a devotion to God, and then you increase your love and affection to the Paramatma, that matures into a bhakti. So Jnanottara karma is absolutely essential for us attaining that level of bhakti that Jayatirtha has described, which Neetaji has actually informed us as what that bhakti is likely to be. Anybody else wants to contribute here? Okay, so we move on. So these 4 verses, these 6 verses that we have seen over the last four weeks, they also bring us this idea of what Jayatirtha has informed us. And I just want to go through this. We've done it so many times, but it sets the scene with regards to what is happening in the next 4 mantras in Ishavasya Upanishad. So what did Jayatirtha say? Paramatmano atyanta binnasya swataha chit anandadi atmakasya jivasya anadi avidya kama karmadi nimitto ayam paramartata eva anyata dukkadi anartaha. So this is the state of samsara, which we are very familiar with, because although we have our own innate blissfulness, we don't experience this at this point of time because we are in samsara, and that samsara is because of what? Avidya. Avidya has led to what? Desires. Desires has led to what? Kamya karma. Kamya karma had led to what? All the imprints on the linga sharira, and we are constantly going round and round in circles, and this samsara is full of dukkha. So that is the current constitutional position. But Jayatirtha also gives us a step as to how do we get rid of this. Yeah. So how does he say that? Na parameshwara prasadat rute apagachati. We are not going to be able to get rid of this without God's grace. Nacha asakshat kruto asau prasidati. Without us seeing the first vision of the Supreme, we don't even have a chance of eliminating our karmas and coming out of the cycles of birth and death, and eventually having our self-realization and God realization. So that sakshatkara is important. So nacha asakshat kruto asau prasidati. Nacha avidita swarupaha shakyate sakshat kartumiti sakala gunakarataya nishesha dosha gandharataya. So unless we see him, we cannot obtain his grace. Unless we know him, we cannot see him. He is to be known as the abode of infinite auspicious attributes and without any defects. So these are all fundamental criteria. Sakala gunakarataya nishesha dosha gandha vidurataya cha tam pratipadayitum aseshamnayaha pravartante tadupakarana bhutacha brahmamimamsa iti paramartaha. He can be known only through the Vedas, which should be interpreted with the Veda, with the aid of Brahma Sutras. These all become key points. We can't have our own ideas in our head and interpret the Vedas. No, we interpret the Vedas with the rules of interpretation, also with the rules that have been laid out by our founding father, Vedavyasa, Badarayana, Krishna Dvaipayana, who has composed the Brahma Sutras, the aid with which we read and understand the Vedas. So this is the journey, isn't it? We have started off from at the end of Pralaya, when Sri Tattva has said, Paramatma, start the creation. The creation has happened, we have come in samsara. Now in this samsara, as long as this Brahma Kalpa is there, which is for 100 years, we are going to go through this cycle. So this is our journey. And what we have to, our finishing point is where we get the God's grace to release from bondage of samsara. That is our finishing point. So in that finishing point, the very, very important criteria for the finishing point is, first we have to see him so that our karmas are removed. And then he bestows our grace and says, okay, mate, you can come and join me. Okay? So to see that aparoksha jnana, whether we like it or not, is a fundamental step and is absolutely required. Okay? There may be folks out there who might tell us and deceive us and say, look, I'll give you moksha. No, they can't do it. There is a system that is prescribed in the Vedas, which is knowledge, bhakti, vairagya, grace, aparoksha jnana, and ultimate release. Okay, so we never should forget these steps that are involved, because our guru here, Svayambu Manu, is an aparoksha jnani to start with. Okay, he is all tattvabhimani devatas and all the deities of the Vedic pantheon. They are all aparoksha jnanis. They've had the God vision. And they are doing their karma so that at the end of this Brahma Kalpa, they can also reach their salvation. Okay, so that is the fundamental point there. But now here, the ideas here is an aparoksha jnani may be able to have a vision of God, but his vision of God is not continuous and is not there all the time. It again depends upon the nature of the jiva. Folks like Chaturmukha Brahma may be having a vision of the Supreme constantly, whereas as you come down the gradation, that aparoksha jnana or the constant vision of the Paramatma I have a slide discussing that. where it's transient. It's not always there. Okay, so we'll discuss that concept as we navigate these slides. So Svayambu Manu here is praying to Yagnanamaka Paramatma, and he is reached a situation where he is just about to see this Paramatma. Okay, and that is how we should approach our life, as to what do we do when we are just about to see this Paramatma. So that is the greatness of the following verses. So when Svayambu Manu has done his prayers in the previous mantra, and he is approaching Yagnanamaka Paramatma, he is reaching a stage where he is about to have that sakshatkara or darshanam, and he says these profound verses. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya abhihitam mukam tatvan pushan apavruno satyadharmaya drishtaye. Pushan ekarshe yamasurya prajapatya vyuharashmin samuha tejaha yatte rupam kalyana tapam tatye pashyami vyovasa vasau purushaha so ahamasmi vayu ranilam amrutam ata idam basmantam shariram om kratosmara kratam smara kratosmara krutam smara agne nayasupata rayo asman Vishwani deva vayunani vidwan yuyodyasmanchu mano bhuishtam te namo uktam videma. So those are all the 4 mantras he says. The first 3 mantras are beautiful. Hopefully we will do the first 2 mantras today. This Hiranmayena Patrena. Okay, so the idea there is, our acharyas tell us, folks, some of us here may eventually reach our aproksha jnana. Okay, so if we do our sadhanas, and if we are following what is being prescribed in the shastras, at some point, it may be in this birth or it may be at some point in the future, we may reach that stage exactly like how Svayambu Manu has reached this stage. Yeah. So when we reach that stage, our acharyas tell us that if we have done the sufficient sadhanas, we should actually recite these mantras. When we are about to have that aparoksha jnana, we should recite these mantras. Okay? So such is the profound philosophy of these mantras. So let's look at the first verse. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya abhihitam mukam Tatvam pushan apavrunu satyadharmaya drishtaye. It's a beautiful, beautiful verse. Yeah. And again, as how we approach our Vedas, our Upanishads, we just don't skim the surface. We have to actually look at each word in this mantra to understand the profound philosophy that Svayambu Manu is describing to us, and the philosophical approach in which he is praying to this Yagnanamaka Paramatma, who is Brahman, Vishnu, Krishna himself. Yeah. So what does he say in the very first? He says, Hiranmayena Patrena. So let us first take these 2 words. What does it mean? Hiranmayena Patrena. Okay. So Hiranmaya. Okay. So Hiranmaya, okay, when you look at a very superficial sense, it would mean by the golden or the brilliant. Okay, something that is golden, Hiranmaya. So who are here is a quick. So what are the name of the chaps who are Jaya Vijaya's incarnation who had similar names? So who want to answer this question? What are the names of Jaya and Vijaya who had names starting with Hiranya?
Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
Thank you very much. So Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, because these fellows were always either after gold, wealth, either hiding them or constantly acquiring them. So gold also is called Hiranmaya because it's golden in color and is brilliant and is lustrous. So similar kind of words, you look for this Hiranmaya. It comes in various places in the Upanishad. So here, what does it mean is the question, Hiranmaya. So Hiran means golden, brilliant. Maya. So Maya, we need to understand what Maya is. Trivida Mayat Pratyaya. Okay, so this Pratyaya, Mayat, has got 3 meanings. Okay, so we need to understand this. Again, that contextual relevance becomes interesting because sometimes I do see transliterations which somehow let the interpretations down. So we need to apply these ideas here. So Maya can have 3 meanings: Prachurya, Vikara, or Tadatmya. Prachurya means abundance. Annamaya, pranamaya. Okay. Vikara means transformation. Mrinmaya, mud becoming pot. Mrinmaya. Tad Atma, our Jiva Swabhava, Paramatma is Jnananandamaya. So you have Annamaya, Pranamaya. One set of words in the Upanishad. Mrinmaya, we see it in Chandogya Upanishad. Jnananandamaya, described everywhere in the Vedas. So the Maya that comes there, they have different meanings in different contexts. Okay. So here what it means is Prachurya or abundance. So that entity that has an abundance of golden, lustrous attributes. What is that one? And nobody can argue. It's the sun, the rising sun or the sunset, where the sun has the golden hue. Okay, that is a classic example of Hiranmaya. Okay, so here Svayambu Manu is giving us an idea of the sun. Okay, hold on to that idea. When I say Hiranmaya, I am looking at this beautiful sun in the dawn, in the sunrise or the sunset, which is a golden hue. And then he says, Patrena. He says, this Patra is Hiranmaya. So what is this Patra? What does Patra mean? Patra means in various South Indian languages, you have Patram. Yeah, Patram means what? An utensil. A plate is also called a Patra. So there is the idea, Hiranmayena Patrena. So this disc or a plate, which is full of golden, brilliant, lustrous attributes, okay, which is what? The sun. Okay. So what are the other etymological names of Patra? So this is what Svayambu Manu is thinking about. Piyate aneneti patram. So we use a patram to drink, right? We use a cup, for example, to drink water. Patritvat patram. That which drinks is also called patram. Okay. And palane, that which sustains us, is also called patram. So there are etymological meanings of patram, not just a plate. Okay. So now let us understand how do these ideas of Samskrita apply to the sun. Okay. Patritvat patram, that which drinks is patram. So what does the sun do? The sun drinks the water from the rivers and the ocean. And then what happens? That evaporates, that becomes the cloud. And then condensation, and then eventually the clouds give rainfall. The rainfall then sustains the crops, and the food comes out of the crops and we eat, and that's how we are also sustained. So patritvat patram palane iti patram. Okay, so those are all the ideas. So, and that is again is the beauty of our language, isn't it? So we get so many ideas from these concepts. So what Svayambu Manu is saying is, this golden disc, this golden plate, what is it doing? So when we say Hiranmayena Patrene, we understand that he is talking about the sun. Patram Hiranmayam Surya Mandalam Sam Udahrutam. So that is the Bhashya for that. So that Patram is Suryam. That is no controversies there. We all agree that this is what Svayambhuva Manu is talking about, is the sun. Okay. But the next word is where it is a little bit cryptic. So the next word immediately says, this Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam. So Svayambhuva Manu is saying this golden disc is covering something, is covering some face. Mukam means face. Let's say Mukam means face. And then Abhihitam means covers. And it says, the Svayambhuva Manu says this golden plate is covering the face of something called Satya. Okay, so that is the literal meaning of this word. But there are deeper philosophies in that. So what does that mean? This really is one of the upasanas that we are doing every day. And I just want folks to just come in here, recite this mantra and tell us what it is. Okay. So this Hiranmaya Patra is the sun. And we all, during sunrise and during sunset, we look at this Patra and we do something. So we do recite some mantras, which we should supposed to do. I don't know how many of us do it, but we should do it. Okay. So I'm going to ask a quick question. Which mantra celebrates this concept of actually looking at the golden sun in sunrise and sunset? So who wants to recite this and answer the question? Okay, so dead silence. Let me go ahead then. Okay, so this mantra is what Gayatri mantra, right? This is the Gayatri mantra that we say. We look at the sun and we say the Gayatri mantra, which was seen by Vishwamitra. So we know Brahma Gayatri, Vishwamitra Gayatri. We've done all those in our various sessions. How does it go? Om Bhur Bhuvassuvaha Tat Savituhu Savituhu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yonaha Prachodaya. Okay, so that is the Gayatri mantra. So we do the Gayatri mantra, but Svayambu Manu is saying you have to do the Gayatri mantra in a slightly different approach. And we of course done it when we've done our Gayatri mantra. We are not praying at that golden plate called the sun. We are not doing that actually. The actual thing is this golden plate is hiding something behind it. Okay? That is what we are praying in the Gayatri mantra. Okay? And that is described as Satya here in Svayambu Manu. And of course, Chandogya Upanishad actually tells us who this Gayatri is. And it says, Gayati cha Trayate cha. So singing this hymn protects us. Okay? Sesha Chatushpata Shadvida Gayatri Tad Rucha Abhi Anuktam Tavanasya Mahima Tato Jayamshta Purushaha Pado Asya Sarva Bhutani Tripadasya Amrutan Devi Yadvai Tad Brahma Idam Brahmeti Idam. So that is what Chandogya Upanishad settles this as to who this Gayatri is. The Gayatri is not the sun. Okay, the sun is the Hiranmaya plate, but the Gayatri is one that is behind. Inside the sun is what the Rishi Vishwamitra is seeing, very similar to what Svayambu Manu is seeing here. So that's how you do this Samanvaya. So what is that mantra here? Look at this mantra, Chandogya Upanishad 3.12.5, which says Tavanasya Mahima Tato Jayamscha Purushaha Pado Asya Sarva Bhutani Tripadasya Amrutan Divi Yadvai Tad Brahma Iti Idam Yetavanasya Mahima Ato Jayamshcha Purushaha Pado Asya Vishwabhutani Tripadasya Amrutan Divi. Purusha Shukla, which celebrates the Paramatma. So this Gayatri, where the etymology is given in Chandogya Upanishad, is the same Gayatri that is celebrated in the Purusha Shukta of the Rig Veda, which is the same person that is celebrated by Svayambu Manu here as Satyam. Okay, so the first idea there is Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukham means that this golden hue is covered, this Satya. Yeah, which is behind it, and we are not seeing it. When we get up in the morning and we just blindly recite our Gayatri mantra, we are maybe just looking at this golden sun, which is what we should not be doing. We should be thinking about that supreme Paramatma who is there as Surya Narayana. Okay, but this golden plate is actually hidden. So the Rishi there, Svayambu Manu, and in fact, Vedic Rishis have a profound philosophy. They are actually saying, why have you covered yourself with this golden plate? Remove this golden plate. I want to see you directly. So that is the powerful prayer that the Rishis do. And why do they do that? So this Hiranmaya Patra may be there in Dhyau. Okay, it may be there out there that we can see. But inside us as you and me as Jivas, inside us we have a similar covering that is actually preventing us from seeing the Paramatma. Okay, so in this Dvasuparana equation, this bird which is at the lower level, which is the Jiva, it is too focused on the material world, but it is not seeing the bird which is just a silent witness, the Paramatma. It is not seeing because there is a covering there. There is a covering that she is not able to see. Okay, so that is the idea for us as Jivas. And here, look at this mirror equation. We have done this, isn't it? In this equation, this is really interesting. This object is the Satya, and this Pratibimba is the Jiva. Okay, so in this equation, the Satya is always seeing the image. We are always seeing the image, right? But the philosophy there is the image should start seeing the object. Okay. This image is not seeing the object because there is a covering and it is not able to see it, although this object can see the image. So that is the beauty of that philosophy there. And when you apply it to our jivas, we are the jivas, and in us is the antaryamin. But there is, although this antaryamin is so close to us, there is something that is covered it, that we are not able to see it. Okay. So this is the prayer. He says that there is a covering here. Remove that covering. I want to see you. Okay. So that is the request. That is the plea that Svayambu Manu is actually putting here by saying, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam. Okay, so here is another very, very important word, and I'll probably be spend the next 15 minutes talking about this. What does he said? He said Satya. Okay. Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam Tatvam Pushan Apavrunu Satyadharmaya Drishtaye. So far in the Isha Upanishad, you would have realized that Svayambu Manu has given various names to Paramatma. He celebrated him as Isha. He celebrated him as Atma. He celebrated him as Tat. Tat, Atma, and Isha are some of the words that he had used to celebrate this Brahman. Here, Svayambu Manu calls Brahman as Satyam. Okay. The question is, why has he called this Brahman as Satyam? There must be some reason, isn't it, as to why he is put in that word Satyam. So this is not a random occurrence. And 100% Satyam may be truth in colloquial Sanskrit. In colloquial language, Satyam may be called as truth. But Satyam has got a much more profound etymological meaning, which is what I want to impress upon you over the next 10 to 15 minutes. Because in the previous Kanda, Svayambu Manu has spoken so much about creation. If you remember about Sambhuti and Asambhuti, and we discussed various, Paramatma's various creation, eightfold dispensations of universe, Utpatti, Sthiti, Samhara, Niyati, Jnanam, Bandham, Moksha, samsara, and everything else that we have discussed there, they become very relevant. So to bring forth those ideas, it is a natural progression. For us to capture those ideas of creatorship of Brahman, the word Satyam is used. In fact, the word Satyam is used everywhere in the Upanishads and in Gitas. And again, wherever Satyam is used, let us not make a very basic error of just taking it as colloquial truth. Yeah. So that is not what the meaning of Satyam is. Look at Chandogya Upanishad, 8th Adhyaya. It actually gives you the meaning of that. Okay, I'll come to that in a minute. Look at other verses. Vishnu Sahasranama, Satyaha. Vishnu is celebrated as Satyaha. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we are very familiar with this verse, isn't it? Anybody wants to take up the first verse, please, of Srimad Bhagavatam? Go for it. Please recite the first verse. Okay, Janmadhyasya yato anvayad itaratashtakteshva bignaha swarat tene brahma hridayadi kavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha tejo vari murdam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo mrusha damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dimahi. So this Satyam can be used in various connotations. It could be in this way, nirasta kuhakam Satyam, or this real universe is created by this Satyam. I bow to thee. Okay, so Bhagavatam talks about Satyam. Satyasya Satyam. Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Skanda talks about Paramatma as Satyam. So everywhere in the Upanishad, if you do Google searches, you will find that Upanishads talk about the Satyam quite a lot. So now the Upanishad itself gives a definition of who the Satyam is. Okay, so we don't have to actually imagine and come up with a meaning of what the Satyam is. And some transliterations have missed these fundamental points, which is very unfortunate. So let me take through this. Brahmano nama satyamiti. That is the first line, Chandogya Upanishad. Brahmano nama satyamiti. Brahman is called Satyam. Look at Taittiriya Upanishad. Om Brahma vidapnoti param tadesha abhyukta. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Mundaka Upanishad. Satyameva jayate na anrutan satyena panta vitato devayanaha. Okay, you know, I mean, in India they say Satyameva Jayati, but that Satyameva Jayati has got nothing to do with what Mundaka Upanishad talks about. Here, the Satyam is entirely different. Our in Bharat Varsha, they put it in their government offices, Satyameva Jayate. That Satyam they say is truth, but that is not what Mundaka Upanishad talks about. Yeah, Mundaka is talking about this entity called Satyam. Satyameva Jayate na anrutam Satyena pantaha vitato devayanaha. Chandogya Upanishad. Sa esho anima etadatmyam idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketo. We have done this. So there are satyams everywhere, and the same Chandogya Upanishad starts off by reminding us Brahmano nama satyamiti. That is the name of a Brahman, guys. It is not just some truth that I am having an ice cream. So me having an ice cream is a truth. No, that is not what Upanishads talk about. So then the same Chandogya Upanishad gives us an etymology. Tani hava yetani trini aksharani sat ti yam iti. Chandogya Upanishad talks about and describes who this Satyam is. Satyam, as per Chandogya Upanishad, has got three words. Trini aksharani. Sat plus ti plus yam. Sat means liberated. Tad yat satya, tad yat sat, tad amrutam. Atayat ti tan martyam. Atayat yam tena ubeyachati. Yadena ubeyachati. Okay, very beautiful verses. So Sat means the liberated souls. Ti means the unliberated souls. Yam means Yamayati, regulator of both. He who is a regulator of these two entities is called Satyam, according to Chandogya Upanishad. Okay. Who is that person? Again, Purusha Shukta. Purusha eva idam sarvam yadbhutam yaccha bhavyam uta amrutatvasya ishanaha. So this Purusha is the controller of the liberated as well as the unliberated. So they all talk the same thing. The Samanvaya is beautiful here. So Satyam primarily means Paramatma, Vishnu, Brahman, Purusha, Purushottama. So this is the equation that I've given here. Isha equals Atma equals Tat equals Satyam. This is what Svayambu Manu is praying. You are Satyam. Okay? Yagna. Yagna is the same as Purusha. Purusha is the Purushottama Yoga, Krishna. That Purushottama is the highest being, Akshara. He is the Vishnu. Okay? So when we do Satya Narayana Puja, it is not, you're not doing a true Narayana Puja. What you are saying is, this Satya is the Narayana. Therefore, you do Satya Narayana Puja. So sometimes we fall even at our basic meanings of the words in which we do our prayers. Okay? The Satya is Paramatma, and he is also called Narayana. Therefore, we do Satya Narayana Puja. So Satyam is a very profound word of Vedic philosophy. So let's remind ourselves of Chandogya Upanishad, which says there are three words, Sat, Ti and Yam. Sat means liberated, Ti means unliberated. He who is the controller of these two is Satyam. But that is not only the meanings of Satyam. So this is again the beauty. Okay? The second interpretation of Satyam is, how do we celebrate Paramatma, Satchitananda? Yeah, so he says Satchitananda Vigraha. He is Satchitananda Atma. So that is how we celebrate this Paramatma. And that is exactly Satyam. Okay? Sat means nirdushta. Sattvam nirdushtatvam. Sat means that which has no defects. Ya means yati. Yati means to go. To go means to know. To know means jnana. Okay? So this entity is without defects and it has got jnana. Ti means tati, which means ananda. So Satyam equals Sat Chit Anandam. Okay, so Satyam there is not truth. God is true, but that is not the meaning. The meaning is that we extract by doing etymological studies that there are more informations to be gathered, because we need to understand in what spirit Svayambu Manu is actually saying Satyasya Abhihitam. Okay? So here is another interpretation. I just want to go through this quickly, because in the previous class, we have discussed the eightfold cosmic dispensation of Brahman. Yeah. Utpatti sthiti samhara niyatir jnanam avrittihi bandha moksha cha purushad yasmat harirekarad samsara sthiti bandha moksha hetuhu yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanti tad vijijñāsasva tad brahmeti, says the Taittiriya Upanishad. And our Sutrakara has said the primary definition of Brahman is Janmadhyasya Yataha, and his primary role is Jagat Vyapara Varjam. Nobody else can take this role as Jagat Vyapara Varjam. So when you do the etymology, and I've given you a skeletal sketch of this, you can do further reading. So Satya, there is Sat and Ya. Ya can be Yapayati or Yamayati. Yapayati means he who gives, or Yamayati is he who controls. Yeah. Sadbhava, Satta, Sada, creator. Sthiti, Sada, Nasha. Sadal, Jnana. Avasada, Ajnana. Nirdushta Sthiti is Moksha. Avasada Sthiti is Samsara. So when you look at these kind of etymologies, again, what it means is this being is the giver of the eightfold cosmic dispensation. So Satya there actually means that Brahman that Vyasa has said, Atato Brahma Jignasa, and that Brahman is Janmadhyasya Yataha, therefore he is also called Satya. So it is with these ideas that Svayambu Manu is actually praying to Paramatma, because in the previous verses he has said, he who does not understand the creatorship of Brahman goes to hell. He who limits the creatorship of Paramatma to only 2 or 3 again goes to hell. The proper understanding is that he is the dispenser of eightfold dispensations of the universe. That is why he is called Satya. Now here is a profound statement of Vedic philosophy, which unfortunately certain schools have misinterpreted or have not understood this properly, which is very unfortunate for them. So it is only this Paramatma who is the creator of the universe, who is the controller of everything, and who dispenses the eightfold cosmic dispensation. That is why he is Satya. Jivas do not do that. That responsibility is only with this Satya called Paramatma. Nobody else can have this capacity. That's why Vyasa had said Jagat Vyapara Varjam. But you and me as Jivas, we do not create the universe. We do not have any role in this universe. We are just a useless being going through samsara. In that concept, we are Asatya. We are not Satya. We are not the creators of this eightfold cosmic dispensation. We are nothing. We are so dependent beings. Forget about Jada. Jadas are also not Satya because they can't do anything. Yeah, they can't create anything. They are just Jadas. Okay? So from that perspective, we are Asatya. This Jada is Asatya. Paramatma is Satya because he dispenses eightfold creation of the universe. It is not because you and me do not exist. That is an unfortunate philosophy to have, that we and the matter is Mithya and does not exist. Brahman alone is Satya. That is an unfortunate philosophy. The philosophy of Svayambu Manu is Paramatma is Satya because he is the dispenser of eightfold components of creation. Jivas are nothing. They have no role in that. Therefore, they are not Paramatma. They are Asatya. Matter is Asatya. He is Satya because he is the creator of the universe. We are not that Satya. We are not the creator of the universe. Therefore, we are called Asatya. Don't deny our reality by coming up with some, airy-fairy philosophies. We are very much here, but we need to understand what is our constitutional position. Our constitutional position compared to Brahman is Asatya. So that does not mean we and the universe do not exist. So this is a key idea. If we do not exist, Swayambhu Manu is not going to be wasting his time doing some useless prayers. Yeah, give me a break. So this particular line, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya abhihitam mukam is actually very, very profound from a philosophical sense that we get so many ideas. Next is an even more beautiful verse, and I hope this IT works today. So then he says, this golden plate sun is covered, the Satya that is there. Please remove it, Paramatma. Please remove it, and I want to see you. That is what the next one is, the plea of Svayambu or Manu. Tattvam Pushan Apavruno Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. Okay, let's look at this word. So, Satyasya Abhihitam. Abhihitam is a very, very important word. Abhihitam means covered. Okay. Mukam means what? Face. But for Paramatma, we all know that his face is non-different from his other components. He is everything the same. Yeah, Mukha and Mukhad, Indrashta, Agnishta, Pranad, Vayu, Raja. You know those verses in Purusha Shukla, but we know that Paramatma is Akhanda. He doesn't have any parts. This Mukha is for our understanding. Yeah. So here the idea is this Satya has been covered. Okay. So he says, Tattvam, Tat, that covering or the screen, Tvam, you, Pushan, Apavruno. He says, Pushan, please remove that screen that has covered the Satya. Okay, so this is the plea here that Svayambu Manu is saying. And remember, when we are heading towards our Aparoksha Jnana, we are supposed to recite this mantra. Okay, so the question there is a very cryptic word here, Pushan. So who is this Pushan? The simple explanation is, look at the context, Prakarana. Because Pushan is one among the 12 Adityas. Mitra, Varuna, Aryaman, Daksha, Bhaga, Amsa, Twashtar, Savitar, Pushan, Shakra, Vivaswan, Vishnu. Okay. This Pushan comes in one of the 12 Adityas. Okay. That should not be confused with the Pushan that is being described here, because the sun has already been described as Hiranmaya Patrena. So this fellow himself will not be capable of moving himself out so that Satya can be seen. Yeah. So that doesn't make logic. So this Pushan should mean something entirely different. Okay. Look at Gita 15:12. Can I request one of you to recite this, please? 15:12. Pragnesh, go for it.
Thank you. Yadaditya gatam tejo jagat bhasate khilam yat chandramisi yachagno tattejo vidhimamakam.
Beautiful. So here Krishna has very clearly said, isn't it? The light of the sun, moon, etc. The light of the sun does not come because of the sun, because I am inside that, controlling that sun, and that's how the sun's light also comes. Yeah, yat chandramaso, same thing. So we are all very familiar with that. Krishna is very clear. Even Katha Upanishad is very clear. Ritam pibantau sukrutasya loke guham pravishto parame pararde Chaya tapo brahmavido vadanti panchagnayo yecha trinachiketaha. Go back to those verses that we have done. Chaya and tapo. This Brahman gives shade as well as heat, depending on who the fellows are. If you are a jnani, you get shade and you are nice. If you are an ajnani and you are a tamasika, he gives you heat and you suffer. So this Brahman is what is being discussed here. So how is Pushan Paramatma? So remember, Satya is Paramatma. Now the Svayambu Manu said, this Pushan, you only can remove this golden plate and show yourself. Okay. So Pushan means Paripushta or Paripurna. So that is what he is saying. This Paripurna Paramatma, you only can remove this Hiranmaya Patra. And for us, what is that Hiranmaya Patra? That is why it's very important to talk about us. It is this ignorance that covers us, that ignorance that covers between Paramatma and Jivatma and Paramatma in this equation. So before I go to the next step, who is going to remind us what is that this sheet that covers the Jivatma from the Paramatma so that we are not seeing this Paramatma? What is it called in Vedic language?
Paramachadika.
Yes, Pragnesh ji, you also had
Jivochadika.
Okay, and Pragnesh, you also had Ignorance. Okay, so all of you got various types of views on ignorance. So Pragnesh but is right in the sense he's talking about ignorance. And Shobhaji is right in the sense she is also talking about that ignorance called Jivachadika. But the Jivachadika there, Shobhaji, is about ignorance of the soul about its own innate nature and blissfulness. That is Jivachadika. Whereas the ignorance that shields the jiva from Paramatma is called Paramachadika. So I'll give it to Shushrut. So Paramachadika is the answer here. That Paramachadika that covers the Satya from the jiva. Okay. So here Svayambu Manu is saying, "O Pushan, remove this covering. Apavrunu. Okay. Apavrunu, please remove this covering for us. Why? Satya Dharmaya, because I am holding you in my heart." This Satya and Dharmaya is beautiful. Okay. Dharmaya means dharana. So I've swapped this around. Sorry about this. So dharma, this dharma should be here. Dharma means dharane, dharayat. I am carrying you in my heart. That's what Svayambu Manu is saying. I am carrying you in my heart. You may be carrying the whole universe, but I am carrying you in my heart. Okay. But I am not able to see you. Please remove the sheet. Therefore, when you remove the sheet, I can see you. Drishtaye, that I can see you. This heart is very important, where we are holding, right? Because again, Taittiriya Upanishad has told us very clearly where the jiva is, where the Paramatma is. We have done those classes looking at Dahara Vidya of Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad to understand where on earth the jiva is in this body. And where is Paramatma? Brahma Vedapnoti Param Tadesha Abhyukta Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. He is in that heart, in that space. Who wants to do the 15:5, please? Beautiful verse. Can I get one of you to recite 15:5?
Yeah. Sir, someone is dead.
Pratibhaji, go for it.
Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattasmritirjnanam apohanam cha Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyo Vedanta kridveda videva chaham.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pratibhaji, and Pragneshji, thank you for volunteering. So here also very clear. Sarvasya cha aham hridi. I am there. Sannivishtaha. I am inside all the heart. And I am also giving the ignorance. Smriti jnanam apohanam. Okay. This apohanam is there in me, inside us, right? So here Swayambu's prayer is very beautiful. You are carrying the whole universe, but I am actually carrying you in my heart as your Antaryaman. Please take that covering out and show yourself to me. Apavrunu. Okay. So because he has gone to Yajna for shelter, right? That is what we are doing at this point. So that Apavrunu is very, very important in the next slide. I'll tell you the philosophy of Jivachadika and Paramachadika next. So this Apavrunu is pretty good, because when we go to our temples, when we go to most of the Hindu temples, there is always a screen where your Purohit is doing all sorts of things behind the screen. And then when the occasion is right, the screen is removed and then the puja is performed. Yeah, so that we are very familiar as to that screen in a temple. Now, you could argue, is this just because they have done this so that they don't want others to see how that Vigraha or deity has been decorated, or whether they are giving Naivedya to the deity that nobody should see? Is that the reason, or is there some deeper philosophy? The deeper philosophy is what I have told you today. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya abhihitam mukham. This abhihitam, the covering. Tattvam pushan apavrunu satya dharmaya drishtaya. So next time when we go to the temple and when we do our archana tickets and then stand in the queue and wait for all these things to be done and the screen is open, let's think about the Svayambu Manu, because that is the spirit. That is how we should look at it. And I just want to play this video here, which I thought captures this idea of Svayambu Manu for 2 minutes, and I hope it works. So I hope you are able to appreciate the idea there as to when we go to the temple and we do all this, we just seem to go there and see it as a routine and come back. But that is not the idea. The idea there is for us to think about the deep philosophies that Svayambu Manu is talking about. Apavrunu, remove that screen. Yeah. Now here is the bigger, here is the bigger issue. Now we spoke about Shobhaji was talking about Jivachadika. And Sushrut was talking about Paramachadika, the ignorance that binds us in samsara. So here is the key, a new idea that I'm introducing today, and you can do up some extra reading. The key idea here is Jivachadika, the ignorance that covers the soul. And when that ignorance is gone, we call this as self-realization. Okay? So that Jivachadika is anadi. It's always been with us. Ever since we have been there, we have always had that linga sharira where the jivachadika is. Okay? And that gets destroyed once we have our self-realization, which happens only with God's grace. Okay? That is anadi, but that gets destroyed. When we have Paramatma's knowledge and his grace, it gets destroyed. So that jivachadika is anadi and anitya. Okay? Idea. Think about this. It's a complex philosophy. Jivachadika is anadi, but anitya. It is not nitya. It is anitya. Self-realization to Shravana, Manana, Dhyana, and grace will destroy it. Whereas Paramachadika, the one, it's only uncovered like a screen. It is not destroyed. It is just a screen that is removed. It is anadi and it is always nitya. Okay, this is a concept that you need to think about a bit more. We don't have time to discuss this in all its details. Okay, so it is just a screen that is removed. Okay, and the jivas at the point, this is what the Veda Vyasa is describing in his fourth pada. And when the jivas are having their aparoksha jnana, what happens is that screen is temporarily removed, and the jiva has a quick glimpse of the Paramatma who is inside him as his antaryaman. This darshana of the Supreme can be a flash for some of us. For some of us, it can vary from increasing durations up to Chaturmukha Brahma, who is constantly seeing this. Okay? These are all the ideas. Okay? So again, the beauty of this Vedic concept is, when this screen is removed, only the Aparoksha Jnanin is able to see the Paramatma, whereas all these fellows like you and me, who all still have this Jivachadika and Paramachadika, which is, we have not reached our state of Aparoksha Jnana, right? So we are not able to see this guy. Only the Aparoksha Jnanins are able to have a brief glimpse of this Paramatma. Okay? And that is the Aparoksha Jnanin here, where the image now starts seeing the object. In samsara, the object is constantly seeing the image, whereas in Aparoksha Jnani, it is a two-way process. The object is seeing the image is also seeing the object. Yeah, so that is the metaphorical sense of what that Aparoksha Jnana is. And that is the reason why in our temples, the screen is there, the screen is removed, and again it is closed. Okay, so think about that idea of Paramachadika of the temples. Okay, so this is the beauty of this verse. So I got about 5-10 minutes to maybe try and do this verse, but let's see. Okay, so then he celebrates. No, this is where the point, where the screen has been opened and Paramatma is coming to his vision. So Svayambu Manu is now looking at Paramatma and he is praying to him. So that is why our acharyas have said, remember and memorize these verses, because this is exactly what you should be doing when you have your Aparoksha Jnana. Or what do you say at this point? What do, some of us may be dumbstruck. We may not be even able to talk at that point. But Svayambu Manu has got the strength to say these mantras. Pushan, Ekarshe, Yamasurya, Prajapatya, Vyuha Rashmin, Samuha Tejaha. Yatte Rupam Kalyanatamam Tatte Pashyami Yo Asa Vasau Purushaha So Ahamasmi. That is how he is praying. He is praying this Paramatma when that covering is opened as Pushan, Ekarishe, Yamasurya Prajapatya Vyuha Rashmin Samuha Tejaha Yatte Rupam Kalyanatamam Tatte Pashyami. Yo asav asau, yo asau asau purushaha so ahamasmi. So this whole section, which is in Jagati Chandas, is so beautiful and it's so profound. I thought I would at least do the first half of this verse, but I don't think I'll be able to do justice to this verse by skimming through the surface. So I'm going to close this at this point, today's class, and next week we will take this beautiful verse when that aparoksha jnana has happened and Svayambu Manu is seeing this Paramatma. And look at those names. Those names are beautiful. And he celebrates him with 5 different names. Okay? So we need to understand why 5. He could have said 6 or 4, but why 5 or 5 names he is celebrated as Paramatma? What is the significance of 5 in Vedic philosophy? Who is this Asau that he finishes off with this sentence? And here is another beautiful verse. So ahamasmi. What is this Saha Ahamasmi? What is Aham Brahmasmi? What is the meaning of all this? So to understand this, I think we need to dedicate the next class to look at this verse. Yeah, Yo Asavasau Purushaha So Ahamasmi. Okay, so I'll close at that point and then do some background reading about, go back and do some revision because he said Tasmin Matarishwa. Remember that word? Tasmin Matarishwa Dadati. So all those ideas we have to put into this equation and understand actually what is it that Svayambu Manu is doing prayers when he is having aparoksha jnana. So on that note, I'm going to close today's session and we will say Krishna Pranamastu and take any questions that folks may have. Excellent. So looks like there are no questions for today. So I'm pleased I finished it on time and then hopefully we'll catch up next Sunday. So Sushilji, do you want to take us through Om and we'll close today's session? Wonderful. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. Hare Krishna.